Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to invite our last but not the least presenter of this conference. Let me invite Ms. Calina and Kyle for our last presentation. You can share your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Is the screen already visible?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. It truly is an honor to be presenting in front of all of you today. My name is Calina Julianne Pamplona, and I am here today with my research partner, Kyle Balasanos. We are both rising seniors at the Philippine Science High School Eastern Visayas campus, and we are mentees under Dr. Jubert Marquez. Today, we will be presenting our paper entitled Curcumin, derived from Curcuma longa L, as a blood pressure regulator, a literature review. We would like to start with providing a comprehensive review of the three terms relevant to our study, namely hypertension, cardiovascular disease therapies, and the plant we have chosen to put our focus on, Curcuma longa L, whose common name is turmeric. With this, we will have a short but detailed discussion on subject matters such as the pathophysiology of hypertension or the profile of turmeric, which will be important to understand the results of our study. To start, hypertension, otherwise known as high blood pressure, is among the most prominent modifiable risk factors of cardiovascular disease, one of the leading causes of morbidity, mortality, and health care spending worldwide. A high blood pressure would be characterized by a systolic blood pressure of at least 130 millimeter of mercury, or a diastolic blood pressure of greater than 80 millimeter of mercury. In the Philippines alone, on the other hand, nearly 470,000 cases of hypertension have been recorded during the year of 2019. Preventive research on CVDs and the risk factors have been done before, but they have become increasingly relevant, especially when it is evident that many individuals continue to be affected by this. The table to your right now shows the direct and indirect regulatory mechanisms in which its complex interplay controls blood pressure. Some mechanisms of action to take note for later are natriuretic signaling peptides, renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, and the sympathetic nervous system. All of this, as well as the endothelium-dependent vasodilators and vasoconstrictors, and other mechanisms intrinsic to vascular smooth muscle cells of resistant arteries and arterioles. Moving on to Kyle.
Hypertension is strongly linked to cardiac diseases as it affects the heart by causing it to thicken and stiffen, leading to heart attacks, aneurysms, and stroke. Young adults with raised BP were found to have a slightly increased risk of cardiovascular events in later life. With a composite of total cardiovascular events as primary outcomes and coronary heart disease, stroke, and all-cause mortality were examined as secondary outcomes. Moreover, an evaluation of the health records of nearly 480,000 patients with hypertension found that BP level is significantly correlated with risk of major cardiovascular events. High BP has also been demonstrated as an important risk factor for heart failure, atrial fibrillation, heart valve diseases, and aortic syndromes. To manage hypertension, there are many pharmacological options and treatment guidelines, including lifestyle modifications, antihypertensive agents, and combination therapies, all of which have the goal to reduce and regulate BP levels. Currently, there are increasing support and evidence towards the effectivity of hypertension screenings and diagnosis with co-interventions to manage hypertension. Technological devices, though still requiring proper assessment, have also assisted the management of hypertension.
Before we discuss Curcuma longa L, a natural product, it is important to acknowledge synthetic drug treatments and therapies and their role in treating CVDs. Undergoing synthetic drug therapies is a major modality in treating CVDs, evident in the increasing investment in the drug development and discovery sector, and in it being a commonly used therapeutic class of drugs. While several CVD drug therapies have been linked to possible reductions in risks from CVDs, there has been a reported declining trend in the number of such drugs being approved, which is to be attributed to the cardiovascular toxicity concerns. Thus, many researchers have highlighted the need for its optimization. Cardiovascular toxicity is among the associated risks in the administration of clinically used drugs and related agents, claiming the highest incidence and severity of adverse drug reactions in its late-stage clinical development. Unfortunately, its early detection is difficult. Currently, there are research focuses on targeted therapy, which allows personalized treatments via gene and cell editing as a means of treating CVDs. Moving on, as you have heard, pharmaceuticals, illicit synthetic drugs, and toxins significantly contribute to the overall cardiovascular burden due to the risk of distinct cardiovascular toxicity. The decreasing efficacy and increasing contraindications of synthetic drugs have revitalized interest in the promising potential and synergistic effects offered by traditional medicinal plants, with a strong perception that natural products are safe, with minimal side effects and cost-effective. It is to note that deliberately taking herbs and medicinal drugs simultaneously does not guarantee safety due to the possible herb-drug interactions. These effects, though, are usually left unexamined due to lack of evidence. At the present, medicinal research is wide, mostly including studies regarding metabolomics and mechanisms of actions, which we briefly discussed on earlier.
An example of a medicinal plant is a Curcuma longa L, better known as turmeric or yellow root. A herbaceous perennial plant of the gingerbread family, they are turmeric plants that are 3 to 4 feet tall and have elliptical leaves accompanied with pale yellow cylindrical flowers. They are extensively cultivated across tropics in Asia for their tuberous rhizomes, from which turmeric is extracted for purposes such as cosmetics, cuisines, and the development of traditional medicines. Nutritional analysis showed that turmeric powder is a nutritionally rich natural food product characterized by high concentrations of carbohydrates and fiber, few proteins and lipids, no cholesterol, and the presence of nutrients such as vitamins like pyridoxine, folates, niacin, riboflavin, and vitamin C, E, and K, electrolytes like potassium and sodium, and minerals like calcium, copper, iron, manganese, magnesium phosphorus, and zinc.
In writing this research paper, we gathered literature from accredited medical journals. Using the advanced search feature on Google Scholar, relevant research studies for this review were filtered. The terms used are shown on the screen now. The inclusion criteria are recent studies published from 2007 to 2022, studies from accredited medical journals, and studies that focus or include curcumin and hypertension. Meanwhile, the exclusion criteria are otherwise. With that, we will now focus on one of Curcuma longa L's complexes, a phenolic natural compound called curcumin, and its role in CVD treatment and, of course, the regulation of hypertension.
Turmeric contains 3 curcuminoid complexes, namely curcumin, demethoxycurcumin, and bis-demethoxycurcumin. Curcumin 1, the most active chemical constituent in the turmeric plant, is a crystalline powder, orange-yellow in color, and can be extracted from the rhizome. Previous studies reported that curcumin demonstrate potential use in the alleviation of numerous diseases mediated by dysregulated inflammation and generation of oxidative stress, such as arthritis, for its versatile biological and pharmacological properties, including antioxidant, analgesic, anti-inflammatory, antiseptic, antiviral, antifungal, and antiplatelet activities. Due to its diverse medicinal properties, curcumin is a promising candidate for future clinical research trials. In addition to its well-known pharmacological properties, its potential in CVD treatment has been illustrated in several studies, including remodeling and experimental studies on lab mice, for the identification of its cardiovascular protective properties. Several in vivo and in vitro mice studies, in particular, have shown that curcumin has the potential to become CVD treatment. Curcumin was found to have normalized BP, increased vascular responsiveness, and alleviated oxidative stress, suggesting antioxidant, antihypertensive, and chelating properties, which helps prevent vascular dysfunction. Note again that prevention of CVDs is assisted by one's vascular endothelium healthy and exhibiting vasodilatory, anti-atherogenic, and anti-inflammatory properties. The aforementioned studies were a number of several available scientific papers detailing the mechanisms of action, therapeutic effects, and targets of the polyphenolic compound curcumin. In addition to these results and its other known pharmacological properties, it was also identified that curcumin reduces the formation of peroxide and inhibits the expression of BAX, Baclin-1, BNIP3, SART1, and PI3K AKT-mTOR signal transduction, which leads to the regulation of autophagy, thus promoting dissociation of BCN1 and BCI2, preventing FOXO1 acetylation, and reducing oxidative stress. In turn, protecting the vascular endothelial cell function and regulate blood pressure. With experiments and studies like these, it is clear that there has been an accumulating amount of evidence on the potential of curcumin in regulating BP, such as a study that conducted that curcumin's regulation of the AT1 receptor expression in the arteries is what prevents angiotensin II-induced hypertension.
Moving on, we would like to address clinical studies relevant to our research wherein curcumin was used. While we could not find studies that directly evaluated its effects on blood pressure levels, we have found studies surrounding it, like some detailing acute coronary syndrome or exercise-induced oxidative stress. One study, for example, was a 12-week randomized placebo-controlled trial on 118 subjects and showed that curcumin supplementation reduced the risk of developing acute cardiovascular events in patients affected by type 2 diabetes. If you just do a quick search on clinicaltrials.gov, a resource where you can find ongoing clinical trials throughout the US and 219 other countries, you will find 18 current trials involving curcumin assessing CVDs. While many research studies commented on the therapeutic and protective potential of curcumin, high-quality clinical trials are nonetheless recommended to verify and/or elucidate the cardiovascular protective effects of curcumin. CVDs remain the leading cause of mortality as they account for 31% of global deaths in 2017 and the highest contributor of global deaths in 2019. As hypertension is among the most prominent modifiable risk factors of cardiovascular disease, there is a need to evaluate treatment options, especially the benefits of natural products. To summarize a few main points, a healthy vascular endothelium and the renin-angiotensin system, or RAS, are both important in regulating arterial blood pressure. The demonstrated potential of curcumin in these areas and associated mechanisms further suggest its potential in the regulation of blood pressure, prevention of hypertension, and thus the treatment of CVDs. Curcumin was found to exhibit other mechanisms of action as well, which greatly contribute to its perceived effectivity in regulating blood pressure. Again, further research is required, especially those involving clinical trials with curcumin. Thank you for listening. We will now be open to any inquiries.
Thank you very much. Do you have any question to this study? The study. Yes, I searched that word. It's a topic of your mentoring, right? But it's quite hard to pronounce. Cardiovascular, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's very good work to study this part. Okay, Dr. Joubert, would you please give a comment?
Okay, thank you, Miss Kim, and hello, by the way, good morning to all of the students and to all my fellow mentors that are present today. Before I ask my questions regarding the presentation, I would like to give some comments regarding Calina and Kyle's presentation. I keep repeating this comment whenever they were doing the presentations in our class before, and I actually like it because I told them before that when I was their age, I didn't present as well as they are doing right now, because what they were able to do now is that they were able to distill such a complicated topic, to make it easier for everyone, especially that there are fellow high school students here, and they were able to simplify those complicated topics and make it easier for everyone, not only to their level, but also for those who are outside, especially of my scope, which is more on the clinical sciences. And they were able to select a topic that is timeless, considering that cardiovascular disease and hypertension is a very pervasive and common disease. It never goes away, and people will keep getting it if they don't observe the right proper lifestyle or the proper diet. And with their paper, with their presentation, they were able to select a plant that is very common, that is present in not only in the Philippines but in every country, that has been proven and then has been found to be very potent, and could address not only hypertension but also other kinds of cardiovascular diseases. So I hope that with that knowledge that they were able to find and they were able to present, not only they, Kalina and Kel, as future students of probably of the medical sciences, or the biological sciences, I hope they can use this knowledge to improve the status in the future of cardiovascular disease treatment. So not only in the Philippines or in their locality, but also as possibly future doctors, they would have gained good or more insight on how they can improve the treatment for everyone's betterment. And I actually commend Kalina and Kyle's presentation for being able to present such important topics and being able to give these insights to everyone, because it's something that we are maybe not aware, we know, or not fully aware, but now they were able to put it in the front, and gain more insight. So just one question for Kalina and Kyle. Given that you selected turmeric, as your possible plants, why of all the plants select turmeric? There could be other medical herbs or other plants, but what, in your opinion, do you think is the main advantage of choosing the turmeric family for cardiovascular diseases?
I can answer that. So, not only is turmeric extensively studied already, of course, there is still a lack of clinical trials, but when it comes to in vitro or in vivo tests on lab mice, as we said earlier, there are numerous literature on curcumin and turmeric especially. Not only that, it's also very accessible here in the Philippines and Asia. And another thing I'd like to add is probably the biggest reason why we chose turmeric or Curcuma longa L and curcumin for our study is I am currently doing another research aside from this, separate from Kyle, for school for STR, which involves curcumin, and it requires laboratory work wherein we are finding the anti-angiogenic properties of curcumin through ex ovo chem assay. And so we wanted this to be kind of an extension of that, just regarding cardiovascular diseases and hypertension. So that's why we chose turmeric.
Thank you. If I may comment something, that's actually good, because what you presented now could supplement, the research that you're doing. This could serve as your related literature or the part of the introduction or the discussion of the current research that you're doing. And if I may add, also, a lot of people would think that we have already common people or students would actually think that scientists have already done a lot and could have probably already found all of the cures, found all of the treatments possible. But in reality, the scientists have actually just barely scratched the surface of everything. There's if you remember the presentation by Kali and Ekar earlier, they were able to present some of the proteins and genes that were regulated, but it's actually just a handful of selected genes, and it goes much deeper. And I'm sure by the time that Kalina and Kyle are probably in their 70s or 80 years old. They're probably doing additional studies regarding Curcuma or hypertension, but they still probably haven't scratched the surface of what we're doing right now. So I think in the future also, it's good that right now they're already starting to build on the researches that have already been started for now, and I'm sure that their future contributions to the scientific community will be very, very valuable. So again, I commend the two for their such good and great contributions, not only today but in the future.